Have you ever had that one person in your life who made you question everything you thought you knew about yourself? For me, that person was Ethan Carter, my closest confidant, my adventure buddy, and the man I'd been harboring a secret crush on for over 4 years. I'm Jordan Lee, and this is the tale of how a single backpacking excursion flipped our worlds. Upside down in ways neither of us could have predicted. It was meant to be straightforward, a week-long trek through the rugged trails of the Sierra Nevada. Just two pals ditching the relentless grind of our graphic design firm in San Francisco. Ethan had recently ended things with his fiancée after 3 tumultuous years, and I was still playing the role of the loyal sidekick, masking my growing heartache behind easy smiles and bro hugs. Ethan was the kind of guy who turned heads without trying 6'3", with tousled dark brown hair that always seemed windswept, piercing blue eyes that sparkled with mischief when he cracked a joke, and a grin that could disarm anyone in a room. He was driven, witty, compassionate, and, as far as I knew, resolutely heterosexual. But on that fateful evening when a fierce thunderstorm trapped us in our cramped 2-person tent, all the assumptions I'd clung to about Ethan Carter and about what we could be shattered in the most exhilarating and heart-wrenching manner imaginable. This is our story. The agony of falling for your ostensibly straight best friend turns you into a master of emotional gymnastics. You train yourself to ignore the electric jolt when his hand brushes yours during a high five. You perfect the fake chuckle at his stories about dates with women, even as your insides twist like a pretzel. You become a pro at navigating the territory of what if, without ever crossing the line. I'd been navigating it for 4 long years. Ethan and I first crossed paths at a freshman mixer at UC Berkeley. He was the outgoing marketing whiz from Chicago, full of big dreams about launching a creative agency, revolutionizing the industry, and eventually finding that perfect partner to build a life with kids and a picket fence by 35. I was the introverted graphic design student from Austin, Texas, still grappling with my identity and the courage to live it out loud. We bonded over a shared love of indie films and late-night brainstorming sessions. Before long, we were thick as thieves. Casual coffee runs morphed into all-night movie marathons. Group projects turned into spontaneous weekend getaways too big, sir. By our junior year, we'd hatched a plan to go into business together post-graduation, a boutique design studio, specializing in branding for eco-friendly startups. Fast forward 5 years and Ecovisa Designs was thriving. We had a sleek loft office in the Mission District, a team of 15 talented creatives and clients lining up from tech giants to artisanal brands. Our friendship was the stuff of legends, the type where a raised eyebrow conveys a full paragraph, where inside jokes flow like second nature. But beneath it all, I carried a silent burden, constant pressure in my chest from words I could never say. I came out to Ethan one foggy afternoon in our sophomore year. We were holed up in a cozy cafe near campus, the scent of fresh-baked scones mingling with the damp San Francisco air outside. My heart pounded as I stared into my latte, finally blurting, "Ethan, there's something important I need to share." He set down his sketch pad, his blue eyes locking onto mine with instant worry. "Hit me with it, man. You look like you're about to pass out." I took a deep breath. "I'm gay." Silence stretched for what felt like an eternity, maybe 5 seconds, but it dragged on. Then Ethan's face lit up with that signature grin. "Jordan, buddy, I figured as much ages ago. I've been holding back, waiting for you to bring it up." I blinked, stunned. "How?" He leaned back, chuckling. "Come on, you've never shown interest in any of the girls at our parties. You light up like a Christmas tree during those Marvel movies with Tom Holland. And remember that pride flag sticker you slapped on your laptop? Subtle as a brick." Relief washed over me like a tidal wave, and I laughed, the tension melting away. "And we're good?" "Better than good," he said, clapping me on the back. "You're my ride or die. This changes zilch. Except now I can set you up with my bi roommate. He's been eyeing you for months." That was classic Ethan, unflinchingly supportive, effortlessly cool about it all. He didn't bat an eye, but he also never gave any hint that he saw me as more than a friend. In the years that followed, I endured the parade of his girlfriends. There was Lisa, the ambitious lawyer, who lasted 6 months before their schedules clashed. Then came Sophia, the free-spirited artist, whose passion burned bright but fizzled fast. Each time, Ethan would vent about the mismatches, the lack of deep connection, the missing it factor, the nagging sense that something was off-kilter. I'd nod sympathetically, dole out advice like a good friend should, and bury my own futile hopes deeper. Maybe in some delusional corner of my mind, I wondered if he was subconsciously seeking what he already had right in front of him. But fantasies like that are poison. They keep you hooked on impossibilities. His split with Fiona was the roughest yet. They'd been engaged for a year, together for 3 total, and I'd convinced myself this was endgame. She was smart, beautiful, and seemed to complement him perfectly. But cracks formed. Fiona pushed for wedding plans and a house in the suburbs. Ethan balked at the speed, craving more freedom. It all culminated in a blowout fight, and one rainy Thursday night, he turned up at my doorstep at midnight, drenched and defeated. Clutching a 6-pack of craft beer, "I screwed it all up, Jordan," he muttered, collapsing onto my worn leather couch in my Potrero Hill apartment. "What's broken in me that I can't make this work?" I sat beside him, fighting the urge to wrap him in a hug. "Nothing's broken. You two just weren't the right fit in the end." He shook his head, raking fingers through his damp hair, a habit I'd committed to memory. That's the line I used for Mia and Rachel before her and Olivia way back. What if I'm wired wrong? Like destined to chase something that doesn't exist? His raw honesty pierced me. I ached to confess that I got it, that I'd been chasing an unattainable dream myself for years. Instead, I cracked open a beer and let him pour it out. Hours later, as the storm outside eased, he straightened up. "I need a reset. Let's bail on the city, unplug completely." "Where to?" I asked, though I already sensed what was coming. "That Sierra Nevada backpacking trip we've been hyping for ages. The one with the alpine lakes and zero distractions. We dreamed it up during a late-night design jam 2 years prior, but client deadlines always intervened. A full week in the wild, no Wi-Fi, just nature and us. My rational brain screamed to decline, 7 days isolated with Ethan, my emotions a powder keg. Recipe for disaster. But my mouth betrayed me. Hell yeah, let's make it happen. We hit the road at sunrise the following Saturday. Ethan's rugged Jeep Wrangler loaded to the brim with gear, ultralight tents, freeze-dried meals, water filters, and bear spray for good measure. San Francisco's fog gave way to clearer skies as we headed east on I-80, blasting a playlist of folk rock anthems, Bon Iver, the Lumineers, stuff that matched the scenic vibe. Ethan gripped the wheel with one hand, his other drumming along, already shedding the weight of the breakup. The morning light caught his jawline, casting shadows that made him look like a rugged explorer from an adventure magazine. I averted my gaze, pretending to fiddle with the GPS. "Seriously, thanks for dropping everything," he said as we passed through Sacramento. "I know you've got that big client pitch next month. PFFT, my weekend plans were Netflix and leftover pizza. You're doing me a favor." He flashed that grin, the one that hit me like a gut punch. "You're the best, Jordan. Always got my back." If only he knew how much deeper that loyalty ran. The drive stretched to 5 hours, snaking through foothills into the towering pines of the Sierra foothills. We pulled into the trailhead lot near Yosemite's edge, div in the early spring chill. Most hikers waited for warmer months, but we thrived on the solitude. The air hummed with the scent of earth and evergreen, invigorating and wild. We shouldered our 40-pound packs and set off on the John Muir Trail segment, a demanding path that promised stunning vistas, granite peaks, crystal-clear streams, and meadows bursting with wildflowers. Ethan led the way, his long strides setting a brisk pace. But he paused often to point out citsadeer grazing in the distance, a waterfall cascading over mossy rocks. We bantered effortlessly, trading stories from our college days and roasting each other's design fails at work. "Remember that logo you pitched for the coffee chain? The one that looked like a deranged squirrel?" He teased. "Hey, that was avant-garde." "You just lack vision," I shot back, laughing. But as the miles accumulated, fatigue set in, and conversations turned deeper. By the first night's camp beside a serene alpine lake, we were sharing vulnerabilities under a canopy of stars. That evening, as we cooked ramen over a portable stove, Ethan opened up more about Fiona. I thought she was it, you know. But every time we talked future, it felt ... forced. Like I was acting a part in someone else's script. I poked at the fire, my heart twisting. Maybe you're just not ready for that script yet. Or maybe it's the wrong genre altogether. He stared into the flames, thoughtful. Yeah, maybe. What about you? You've been single forever. Anyone catch your eye lately? I shrugged, avoiding his gaze. Nah, work's been my focus. Forever. Anyone catch your eye lately? I shrugged, avoiding his gaze. Nah, work's been my focus. Plus, dating apps are a nightmare. Truth was, no one measured up to him. We turned in early, zipping into our separate sleeping bags in the tent. But sleep evaded me. His steady breathing, a torturous reminder of proximity. The next days blurred into a rhythm of hikes, swims in icy streams, and shared meals. We summited a minor peak on day 3, the panoramic view of snow-capped mountains leaving us breathless. Ethan whooped in triumph, pulling me into a celebratory hug that lingered a beat too long. Or maybe that was my imagination. By day 4, storm clouds gathered, forcing us to hunker down early. Rain pelted the tent like bullets, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. The space was tight, our bags pressed together for warmth as temperatures plummeted. This is cozy, Ethan joked, his voice close in the dark. Reminds me of that dorm room flood sophomore year. I chuckled nervously. Yeah, except no pizza delivery out here. Lightning flashed, illuminating his face inches from mine. His eyes met mine, and something shifted in, unspoken tension crackling like the storm outside. I don't know what I'd do without you, Jordan, he whispered, his hand resting on my arm. My pulse raced. Same here. The words escaped before I could stop them. Ethan, there's something I've been holding back. He didn't pull away. Tell me, heart-hammering, I confessed. I've been in love with you for years. I know you're straight, but he cut me off with a soft laugh, not mocking, but surprised. Straight, Jordan. I've been questioning that for a while. All those relationships, they never felt right because I was comparing them to what we have. Time froze. Then, tentatively, his lips met mine in the dim tent light, kiss born of revelation, tender and electric. The storm raged on, but inside a new one brewed, one of possibility, fear, and uncharted territory. The remaining days transformed everything. We talked endlessly about suppressed feelings, societal expectations. The future of our friendship turned more. Back in San Francisco, we navigated the shift carefully, blending our professional lives with this budding romance. It wasn't without challenges. Doubts crept in. Old habits died hard, but that trip had unraveled us, only to weave something stronger. Ethan Carter didn't just make me question myself. He helped me discover who I truly was, and in the end, we both found what we'd been searching for. Each other. We hiked at a steady rhythm, the crunch of gravel under our boots syncing with our breaths. Occasionally, I'd point out a soaring eagle or a peculiar lichen-covered boulder, and she'd nod with that quiet appreciation of hers. This was where we shone brightest together, traversing the world shoulder to shoulder, enveloped in a companionable, quiet broken only by effortless chatter. In these moments, amid the whispering winds and rustling leaves, I could nearly push aside the tangled web of emotions I harbored. Nearly. Honest question, Mia said, as we paused for a hydration break around mile 5. Why don't you date more often? The query hit me like a sudden gust. What? I stammered, wiping sweat from my brow. You're intelligent, hilarious, and let's be real, pretty damn attractive. Don't roll your eyes at me, you know it. But you hardly ever mention going out with anyone. My friend Sarah is still on the market, you know. She flashed a teasing grin. But there was genuine curiosity beneath it. I took a deliberate swig from my canteen, stalling for composure. I don't know. Haven't crossed paths with the right one yet, I suppose? Maybe you're pining for someone you believe is out of reach. My pulse faltered. I glanced at her intently, but her face was open, inquisitive, not accusatory, just perceptive, perhaps. I mean it carefully, I replied, my voice measured. For what it's worth, whoever snags you would be hitting the jackpot. She gave my arm a playful punchlight, platonic, unaware, and resumed the trek. I trailed behind, her words reverberating in my thoughts like a haunting tune, sweet yet sorrowful. By my afternoon, we arrived at our campsite. It was idyllic, a secluded glade beside a babbling brook encircled by ancient oaks, with distant glimpses of jagged, fog-shrouded ridges. We pitched our tents. Mia had opted for 2 compact ones over a shared, larger model, citing the need for breathing room, and scoured the area for kindling. As twilight descended, we prepared supper over the open flame. Grilled salmon fillets wrapped in foil with herbs and root veggies. Unpretentious, yet elevated by the alfresco ambience, where every bite seemed infused with the essence of the wild. The chill deepened with nightfall, drawing us nearer to the fire's glow. "This is precisely what my soul craved," Mia murmured, gazing into the dancing embers. "No deadlines, no notifications, no chaos, just pure escape. The wilderness has this uncanny ability to realign your priorities, doesn't it?" I concurred wholeheartedly. "You ever ponder if you're truly on the path meant for you?" she ventured, her tone unusually reflective. "Or do you imagine an alternate self, forging entirely divergent roads?" This depth was atypical for Mia, who usually favored light-hearted banter. "What sparked that introspection?" I inquired gently. "I'm not sure." Before parting ways with Ethan, he remarked that I seemed distant, as if a piece of me was locked away, and he nailed it. She lifted her gaze from the flames, locking eyes with mine. "I just can't pinpoint the reason." The fire's flicker cast shadows across her features, highlighting the raw bewilderment etched there. My chest tightened with empathy for her turmoil, her probing queries, the truths she wasn't prepared to confront. "Perhaps you're simply unraveling the puzzle," I offered softly. "Self-discovery doesn't adhere to a schedule." "Was that your experience when you came out as bi?" she asked, tilting her head. "Yeah, it was a gradual process. Accepting it internally took ages, voicing it even longer. But intuitively, you sensed it all along. Fragment of me always did. I just needed the courage to embrace it fully." Mia nodded thoughtfully, then caught me off guard with, "What tipped the scales for confiding in me?" I reminisced about that rainy afternoon in the diner, the storm of fear and anticipation raging within. I came to understand that authenticity with those I cherish required shedding that core secret. And you were too vital to deceive. A fleeting emotion crossed her, expression elusive in the dim light. "You mean the world to me too?" she whispered. "More than you might realize." The air thickened with unspoken weight suspended between us. Then Mia cleared her throat and rose. "We ought to turn in. Epic trails await tomorrow." "Absolutely." "Sweet dreams, Mia." "Night, Jordan," I observed as she retreated to her tent, my heart thundering like distant thunder. The fire hissed and snapped, launching embers skyward like ephemeral dreams. Little did I know, a shift was imminent. Sunday broke with a crisp, radiant dawn. We stirred at first light, brewing tea on the portable burner before venturing further into the untamed expanse. The path meandered parallel to the creek, evolving into a cascade of gentle rapids tumbling over fern-draped stones. Mia thrived in this setting, spotting animal prints of fox here, a rabbit there naming Flora with encyclopedic ease, striding with the fluid assurance of one utterly at peace in her body. I caught myself observing her more than the vista, the casual way she tied back her hair when it escaped her ponytail, the focused furrow of her brow on steep inclines, the infectious delight in her chuckle as we flushed a covey of quail from the underbrush. Near noon, we emerged into a vast highland plateau that stole my breath. A tapestry of blooming wildflowers, crimsons, indigos, golds blanketed the earth, while encircling summits stood sentinel-like ancient watchtowers. "This is otherworldly," I exhaled in awe. Mia fished out her camera, snapping a few shots before giggling. "No bars out here, huh?" "That's the point-and-plug bliss." "How's it sitting with you?" "Truthfully, liberating." She flung her arms outward dramatically. No bosses hounding for reports, no relatives prying about my love life. Just you, me, and the peaks. We claimed a broad, sun-warmed slab for our midday repast. The rays were soothing, tempered by a refreshing zephyr. For an extended spell, we lingered in serene quietude, munching on energy bars, cheese, and fresh fruit we'd packed. The only sounds were the distant call of a hawk and the murmur of the wind through the grasses. "Mind if I pry a bit?" Mia broke the silence at last. "Go for it." "When did it dawn on you that you were attracted to women too? Was there a pivotal instance?" I paused, the question stirring old memories. It wasn't something we delved into often, but in this isolated haven, vulnerability felt safer. It crept up gradually, I think. But there was this one summer in college camping with friends, much like this. One girl in the group, Lena, had this effortless charisma. We'd talk late into the night by the fire, and I'd feel this pull, this spark that went beyond friendship. It confused me at first, but over time, it clarified into attraction. Mia listened intently, her eyes reflecting the sunlight. "That sounds intense. Did you ever tell her?" "No," I admitted with a rueful smile. She was straight, or at least that's what I assumed. But it was the catalyst for me to start exploring my feelings more honestly. She leaned back on her elbows, staring at the cloudless sky. I envy that clarity sometimes. I've always dated guys, but lately, I don't know. Ethan's words keep echoing. Maybe I'm not as straightforward as I thought. My breath caught. Was this an opening? A hint? Or just the mountains coaxing out buried thoughts? "What do you mean?" I probed gently. She sat up, brushing dirt from her hands. "Like I've had these fleeting moments crushes on friends, women who intrigue me in ways I can't explain, but I've always dismissed them as admiration or whatever. Out here, away from everything, it's harder to ignore." The confession hung in the air, electric. I wanted to say so much to reveal how I'd felt about her for years. How our friendship had blossomed into something deeper for me. But fear clamped my tongue. Instead, I said, "That's valid. Feelings aren't always neat categories. Take your time unpacking it," she smiled, a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. "Thanks, Jordan. You're always the steady one." We packed up and continued hiking. The conversation shifting to lighter topics, favorite childhood adventures, dream travel spots. But the seed had been planted, and as the day wore on, I noticed subtle changes, longer glances, more lingering touches when helping each other over obstacles. By evening, back at camp, we built another fire and shared stories from our pasts. Mia opened up about her family's expectations, her career ambitions in environmental conservation, and the quiet dissatisfaction that had been building. I shared my own journey, coming out to my parents, the relief and rejection intertwined. The night deepened, stars emerging like diamonds on velvet, as we finally bid goodnight. Slipping into our separate tents, I lay awake, replaying her words. The wilderness had stripped away pretenses, revealing cracks in the walls we'd built. Tomorrow, we'd hike out, back to reality. But something fundamental had shifted between us. A bridge forming over the chasm of unspoken desires. The next morning brought rain, soft drizzle that turned the trails slick and the air fresh with petrichor. We broke camp carefully, laughing as mud splattered our gear. On the descent, Mia slipped on a wet root and I caught her arm, our faces inches apart for a heartbeat too long. "Thanks," she breathed, not pulling away immediately. "No problem," I replied, my voice husky. We continued in charged silence, the forest alive around us. Back at the trailhead, as we loaded the car, Mia turned to me. "This trip, it was more than just a getaway. I feel like I've seen things clearer." "Me too," I said, heart racing. "About a lot." She hesitated, then hugged me fiercely. "Let's talk more soon." Really talk. As we drove away, the mountains fading in the rear view, I allowed myself hope. The knot of feelings wasn't untangled yet, but As we drove away, the mountains fading in the rear view, I allowed myself hope. The knot of feelings wasn't untangled yet, but for the first time it felt possible. It was one of those weekends that started with the promise of escape away from the city's relentless hum. The deadlines piling up like autumn leaves, and the quiet ache of unspoken truths. I'd convinced my best friend Jordan to join me on a backpacking trip through the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest. We'd been inseparable since college, bonding over late-night study sessions that turned into philosophical debates and impromptu road trips. Jordan was the kind of guy who could make even the most mundane day feel like an adventure doll, with tousled brown hair that always looked effortlessly windswept and a laugh that echoed like thunder in a canyon. Me, I'm Elias, the quieter one. The artist who sketched landscapes while he conquered them with his endless energy. We'd set up camp near a crystalline lake, the kind that mirrored the towering pines and snow-capped peaks like a living painting. The air was crisp, scented with pine resin and damp earth. And as we unpacked our gear, Jordan cracked open a beer and handed me one. To getting lost in the woods and finding ourselves, he toasted, his hazel eyes sparkling with that familiar mischief. We spent the first day hiking a loop trail that wound through ancient cedars and fern-choked undergrowth. The path was challenging steep inclines that left us breathless. Narrow ridges with drop-offs that made my stomach twist, but Jordan thrived on it. He was ahead, pointing out a bald eagle soaring overhead or a cluster of wild mushrooms sprouting from a fallen log. I trailed behind, my mind wandering as it often did around him. 3 years we'd been like this ever since we met in that freshman dorm. He'd been the strata engineering major, dating a string of girls who never stuck around long, while I'd figured out early on that my heart didn't beat the same rhythm as most. As we paused at a viewpoint overlooking the valley, the sun dipping low and painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Jordan turned to me with a serious expression. "Hey, Elias, I've been meaning to ask you something. You've never really talked about when you first knew. You know that you were gay?" I leaned against a boulder, catching my breath. The question caught me off guard, but Jordan had a way of asking things without judgment, just pure curiosity. Choosing my words carefully, I said, echoing a habit I'd picked up from him during our deeper talks. There were a lot of small moments that didn't make sense until later. But the first time I really knew, it was sophomore year of college, in that intro to philosophy class we took together. Remember that guy, the one with the tattoos and the intense stare? I couldn't stop thinking about him. The way I felt was so different from how I'd felt about anyone else. It scared me because it was a guy. Because it meant I was different from what I thought I was supposed to be. Different from what my family expected. Jordan nodded thoughtfully, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Your folks came around eventually, though, right? I mean, your dad seems cool with it now?" "Eventually," I replied, kicking at a loose pebble. "It took time. My mom struggled the most. She's from a conservative background, and it challenged everything she'd been taught. But love won out in the end. She's the one who sends me articles about pride parades now." I glanced at him, a small smile tugging at my lips. "Why all the questions? You turning into a therapist on me?" He chuckled, running a hand through his hair. "I guess I'm just trying to understand. You're the first close friend I've had who's gay, and I realize I've never really asked about your experience. That seems like a pretty significant blind spot in our friendship." "Well, ask away," I said, feeling a warmth in my chest from his earnestness. "I'm an open book," he said, settling onto a log beside me. "What's it like being attracted to men?" The question was so genuine, so devoid of any awkwardness, that I couldn't help but laugh softly. It's probably not that different from being attracted to women, honestly. You see someone, and there's this pulsous awareness. Your heart speeds up, you get nervous, you want to be near them. And yeah, the whole falling in love thing. "Yeah," he echoed, his voice thoughtful. "I felt that, but you said you haven't met the right person yet." "I said I haven't met someone who's available," I corrected gently. "That's different." Jordan turned to look at me fully, his hazel eyes searching my face in the fading light. "You're in love with someone who isn't available." My heart hammered in my chest. This conversation was skirting too close to the edge, to the secret I'd buried deep for years. The way his presence made every moment feel charged. How I'd replay our casual touches, a hand on my shoulder, a playful shove in my mind long after they happened. "We should probably head back," I said, deflecting. "Those clouds are looking ominous." I wasn't lying. Dark clouds had begun gathering on the horizon, swelling like bruises against the sky, moving faster than seemed natural for such a calm afternoon. Jordan followed my gaze and frowned, the wind already picking up and whispering through the leaves like a harbinger. Yeah, you're right. Let's not get caught in that. We packed up our snacks and water bottles quickly, slinging our backpacks over our shoulders, and started the hike back to camp. The temperature dropped noticeably as we descended, the air growing heavy with the scent of impending rain. The wind howled through the canopy, bending branches and rustling the undergrowth like whispered warnings from the forest itself. What had been a serene, sun-dappled trail now felt alive with tension, shadows lengthening as the light dimmed. "How far are we from camp?" Jordan asked, raising his voice over the gusts that tugged at our clothes. "Maybe 2 miles," I shouted back. We should make it before thunder cracked across the sky. A deafening boom that echoed through the valley and made us both jump. Fat raindrops began falling slowly at first, pattering against the leaves like hesitant applause. Then, with increasing intensity, turning the dirt path into a slick ribbon of mud. "Run!" Jordan yelled, his voice cutting through the roar. We sprinted down the trail, our backpacks bouncing against our backs, rain soaking through our jackets and shirts within minutes. The ground grew treacherous, roots slick and exposed like snares waiting to trip us. My foot skidded on a wet rock, and I pitched forward, arms flailing only to feel Jordan's strong hand grab my arm, steadying me with a firm pull. "Careful," he called, his grip lingering just a second longer than necessary. "Thanks," I gasped, my pulse racing from more than just the run. By the time we burst into the clearing of our campsite, we were completely drenched. The rain was coming down in relentless sheets, turning the ground into a muddy soup, and lightning split the sky with alarming frequency, illuminating the chaos in stark electric flashes. We dove into our respective tents, gasping for breath as thunder rolled like artillery overhead. I quickly stripped off my sodden clothes, grateful I'd packed everything in waterproof geese, and changed into dry sweats and a hoodie. My tent was holding up well, the fly taut against the onslaught. Bags, and changed into dry sweats and a hoodie. My tent was holding up well, the fly taut against the onslaught, but the storm showed no signs of letting up. Thunder boomed so close, it rattled in my chest, vibrating through the thin fabric walls. "Lias." Jordan's voice carried over the din of the rain. "My tent's leaking." I unzipped the flap and peered out into the deluge. Jordan was inside his tent, fumbling with a roll of duct tape, trying desperately to patch a seam where water was streaming in like a faucet. His efforts were futile. The fabric was old, worn from too many adventures, and the storm was merciless. "Get your sleeping bag and get over here," I shouted, waving him over. "What?" "My tent's fine, bring your stuff." He didn't argue. Within minutes, he was scrambling across the short distance, dragging his sleeping bag, backpack, and a few essentials through the mud. We zipped the tent shut behind him, sealing out the fury of the elements. And suddenly the space that had felt spacious for one felt impossibly intimate with two. We were pressed close together, our shoulders brushing, breaths coming in heavy pants from the sprint and the adrenaline, surging through our veins. Jordan's hair was plastered to his forehead, rivulets of water dripping down his face and neck. His wet shirt clung to his athletic frame, outlining the muscles I'd tried so hard not to notice over the years. "Sorry," he muttered, trying to shift and make himself smaller in the confined space. I should have checked that seam better before we left. "What's fine," I assured him, my voice steadier than I felt. "We'll make it work." Outside, the storm raged with primal fury, winds howling like banshees, lightning flashing in jagged veins across the sky, followed by thunder that seemed to shake the very earth beneath us. The rain drummed a relentless rhythm on the tent's roof, a white noise that amplified the silence inside. We arranged our sleeping bags as best we could, side by side on the narrow floor pad, but there was no avoiding the proximity. Our bodies were pressed together from shoulder to hip, sharing body heat as the temperature plummeted with the night. The air inside grew thick with the scent of wet earth, pine, and something uniquely Jordan clean soap, mixed with the faint musk of exertion. "This is cozy," Jordan joked. But his voice was tight, laced with an undercurrent I couldn't quite place. "Yeah," I replied, staring at the tent ceiling, hyper-aware of every point of contact, the brush of his arm against mine, the rise and fall of his chest syncing with my own breaths, the warmth radiating from his skin seeping through our dry clothes. Silence fell between us. But it wasn't the easy quiet of old friends anymore. It was charged electric-like, the storm outside, building with unspoken energy. My mind raced, replaying our earlier conversation, the way his eyes had lingered on mine at the viewpoint. I'd loved him for so long, a quiet, aching love that I'd convinced myself was one-sided, impossible. He was straight after a lure, so he'd always presented himself. Dates with women from work, stories of flings that fizzled out because something was missing.
I'd listened.
Smiled, buried my jealousy. Elias, Jordan said quietly, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. That person you're in love with, the one who's not available. He turned his head to look at me, our faces inches apart in the dim glow from my headlamp. His hazel eyes were dark, stormy, searching mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. Is it someone I know? My heart stopped, the precipice looming before me. This was the moment I could lie, deflect, preserve the fragile balance of our friendship. Or I could leap, tell the truth, and risk shattering everything we'd built. Jordan, I whispered, my voice trembling. Because I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about getting brave enough to admit things. His breath hitched, and he shifted slightly, his hand brushing mine in the confined space. And I think maybe I've been lying to myself. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, the storm outside fading to a distant roar. What? Every relationship I've had has felt wrong, he continued, his words tumbling out in a rush, as if he'd been holding them back for years. Not because of the women, they were all amazing in their own ways, but because they weren't you. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. I tried to ignore it, chalk it up to just being close friends. But it's more than that. Jordan, I breathed, my mind reeling. What are you saying? I don't know, he admitted, his voice breaking slightly. I don't know what this means, or what I am, or ... He paused, his eyes glistening in the low light. But I know that you're the person I want to talk to every day. You're the first one I think about in the morning, the last before I sleep. And when you look at me like you're doing now, I feel something I've never felt with anyone else. Tears pricked at my eyes, a mix of disbelief and overwhelming joy. You're straight. I thought I was, he whispered, his face so close I could feel his breath on my skin. But straight guys don't think about kissing their best friend, do they? They don't lie awake wondering what it would be like to hold them, to touch them. He stopped, breathing hard, vulnerability etched in every line of his face. I'm terrified, Elias. I don't know how to be this person. I reached up with a trembling hand and touched his face, feeling the rough stubble along his jaw, the warmth of his skin grounding me in the reality of this impossible moment. You don't have to be anyone but yourself, I said softly. What if myself is someone I don't recognize? Then we'll figure it out together, I promised, my thumb tracing the line of his cheekbone. If you want to. I do, he breathed, his eyes locking onto mine. God, I want to so badly it scares me. The rain pounded above us, a ceaseless tattoo, and lightning flashed once more, illuminating the tent in a brilliant strobe. In that frozen instant, Jordan closed the distance between us. His lips met mine, tentative at first, uncertain, searching for permission in the softness of the contact. It was nothing like the fantasies I'd harbored in secret over the years. Those had been polished, perfect illusions. This was imperfect, raw, laced with the taste of rain and the faint salt of sweat. His mouth was warm, yielding, and as I kissed him back, I poured 3 years of unspoken longing into it, my hand sliding to the nape of his neck. Jordan made a small sound, a mix of surprise, need, and wonder, and deepened the kiss. His fingers threading through my damp hair, pulling me closer. His body pressed more firmly against mine, the barriers of fabric and hesitation melting away in the heat of the moment. When we finally broke apart, both of us breathing heavily, our foreheads resting together, his eyes shone with the same mix of awe and fear that mirrored my own. Wow, he murmured, a shy smile breaking through. Yeah, I agreed, my heart still racing. Wow. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside the tent, a new calm settled over us. We talked for hours, whispered confessions, shared fears, tentative plans for what came next. The rain eventually tapered to a gentle drizzle, the thunder retreating to distant rumbles, but we stayed close, wrapped in each other's arms. As the first light of dawn filtered through the clouds, in the morning, as we emerged from the tent to a world washed clean and glistening, Jordan took my hand. "This changes everything," he said, but there was no regret in his voice, only hope. "And nothing," I replied, squeezing his fingers. "We're still us, just ... more." As we broke camp and headed back to civilization, the forest felt different, alive with possibility. The path ahead was uncertain, full of questions about labels, families, and the world beyond our bubble. But for the first time, I wasn't walking it alone. His eyes were wide with shock and something like joy. "Wow," he whispered. "Yeah, I've never been with a guy before." "I know, but that was..." He searched for words, his voice trailing off in the dim light of the tent. "That was everything." I smiled through the tears now streaming down my face. "You have no idea how long I've wanted to do that." "How long?" he asked, his breath still ragged. "For years." His eyes widened even further. Jordan, why didn't you say anything?" "'Cause you were straight. 'Cause I valued our friendship more than my feelings." Because he kissed me again, cutting off my words mid-sentence. This kiss was more confident, more certain, like he'd crossed a threshold and there was no turning back. His hands explored tentatively at first, tracing the lines of my shoulders, sliding down my back, mapping territory that had been off-limits for so long. We pulled apart only to shed layers that suddenly felt too warm despite the cold rain pounding against the tent. Shirts came off in a hurried tangle, discarded to the side. The sleeping bags were unzipped and zipped together into one makeshift cocoon, a warm haven amid the chaos outside. We lay facing each other, skin against skin, hearts pounding in sync. "Is this okay?" Ethan asked, his hand hovering over my chest, fingers trembling slightly. "More than okay." He touched me then. Gentle explorations that made my breath hitch. His fingers traced patterns on my skin, learning, discovering every inch with a reverence that made my chest ache. I returned the attention, watching his face as I mapped his body, the firm planes of his chest. The dip of his collarbone, the way his muscles tensed under my touch. I saw the wonder and desire mirrored in his eyes, a mix of curiosity and raw need. "Tell me if I do something wrong," he murmured against my neck, his lips brushing my skin and sending shivers down my spine. "There is no wrong, just us." We spent hours in that tent, learning each other's bodies with a patience born of years of unspoken tension. Kisses ranged from tender and slow, like savoring a secret, to desperate and hungry as if we were making up for lost time. His hands grew bolder, exploring lower, eliciting gasps and moans that mingled with the thunder outside. I guided him, gently, showing him what felt good, what made me arch into his touch. And he was a quick learner, his instincts taking over as he discovered how to make me tremble. The storm raged outside, winds howling and rain lashing the fabric of our shelter. But inside, we created our own world, a sanctuary built from trust, desire, and 4 years of unspoken longing finally finding its voice. We whispered confessions between breaths, admissions of stolen glances and hidden fantasies. Ethan told me about the times he'd caught himself staring at me during late-night work sessions, dismissing it as fatigue. I confessed how I'd lie awake after our movie nights, replaying every casual touch. By the time exhaustion claimed us, we were tangled in each other, sated and spent, the air thick with the scent of us. I woke to silence. The storm had passed sometime in the night, leaving behind the clean, fresh smell of rain-washed earth and pine. Early morning light filtered through the tent fabric, painting everything in soft golden hues. Ethan was still asleep beside me, his face peaceful in repose, lashes casting shadows on his cheeks. One arm was draped possessively across my waist, our legs tangled together beneath the sleeping bag. His chest rose and fell with steady breaths, and I could feel the warmth of him seeping into my skin. I watched him sleep, still not quite believing the previous night had been real. Had Ethan Hayes really kissed me? Had we really spent hours? Exploring each other, bodies entwined in ways I'd only dreamed of, whispering secrets as the world outside fell apart. As if sensing my gaze, Ethan's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, he looked disoriented, blinking against the light. Then memory flooded back, and his expression shifted through a whirlwind of emotions. Surprise, realization, and finally something soft and wondering. "Hi," he whispered, his voice husky with sleep. "Hi. So that happened. That happened." A slow smile spread across his face, crinkling the corners of his blue eyes. "I thought maybe I dreamed it. Not a dream." He pulled me closer, nuzzling into my neck, inhaling deeply as if committing my scent to memory. Good. Because it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. My heart swelled, threatening to burst. Yeah. He lifted his head to look at me, his expression turning vulnerable. I'm also completely terrified. I know. What if I'm bad at this? What if I don't know how to be? Whatever I am now. I touched his face gently, cupping his cheek, feeling the stubble under my palm. You don't have to have it all figured out. We can take this as slow as you need. There's no timeline, no checklist. You're just Ethan, and I'm just Jordan, and we're figuring it out together. He kissed me then, soft and sweet, a seal on the promise. I don't deserve you. That's not true. It is. You've been patient with me for so long, God, for years, Jordan. How did you not say anything? Because I loved you too much to risk losing you. The words hung between us, heavy and true. I hadn't meant to say them not yet, not this soon. But they were out now, honest and irreversible. Ethan's eyes glistened, a sheen of unshed tears. You love me? Yeah, I do. I have for a long time. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it back yet. I don't know if I know what this feeling is, but whatever it is, it's huge and it's scary and it's all-consuming and it's all for you. That's more than enough. We lay there for a while longer, exchanging lazy kisses and quiet words, fingers tracing idle patterns on each other's skin. The world outside beckoned, but we lingered, savoring the bubble we'd created. Eventually, hunger and the call of nature forced us to leave our cocoon. We dressed slowly, stealing glances and touches his hand brushing my arm as I pulled on. My shirt, my fingers, lingering on his waist as he zipped his jeans. Everything felt charged with new meaning, every movement a silent affirmation. Outside, the world had been transformed. The Yosemite Valley sparkled with water droplets catching the morning light, leaves glistening like jewels. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of wet soil and wildflowers. Our campsite had survived the storm mostly intact, though Ethan's tent was a soggy mess, poles bent and fabric torn. Guess you're stuck with me, Ethan said, surveying the damage with a wry grin. Such a hardship. He laughed, a sound that warmed me from the inside out and pulled me in for a kiss. It was easier now, more natural, though I could still see the wonder in his eyes each time our lips met, like he couldn't quite believe he was allowed to do this. That this was his reality now. We made breakfast together. Scrambled eggs from our cooler, toasted bread over the campfire, coffee brewing in a battered percolator. We moved around each other with a new awareness, bodies attuned to proximity. Every accidental brush of hands felt electric. Every shared glance carried weight, laden with unspoken promises. As we ate, sitting on a log with our knees touching, Ethan set down his mug, his expression turning serious. We should talk about what happens when we get back. What do you want to happen? He ran a hand through his tousled brown hair, exhaling slowly. I want to be with you, like actually together. But I also need time to process all of this. I've spent my whole life thinking I was one thing, and now, he gestured helplessly, waving at the air as if to encompass the enormity of it. I need to figure out what this means for my identity, how to tell people, how to exist in the world as someone different from who I thought I was. I understand. But I don't want you to think that means I'm uncertain about you. I'm not. This is the most certain I've felt about anything in years. Hope bloomed in my chest, warm and bright. So we're together? Like actually together? If you'll have me? Despite me being a complete mess who's figuring things out, Ethan, I've wanted this for 4 years. I can wait however long you need to get comfortable. Thank you. He reached across and took my hand, lacing our fingers together. Can we just keep this between us for a little while, till I wrap my head around it? Of course. We spent the rest of the morning breaking down camp and packing up, tasks punctuated by kisses, touches, and laughter. It felt like playing house, like trying on a new life to see if it fit. And it did perfectly. Dow. Every shared chore, from rolling up the sleeping bags to dousing the fire, was infused with a playful intimacy. Ethan would sneak up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, planting kisses on my neck that made me laugh and squirmed. The hike back to the trailhead took most of Sunday. We moved slowly, stopping frequently not just to rest, but to be together. We'd pause under the canopy of towering sequoias to kiss, hidden from the world, or sit by a babbling stream to hold hands where no one could see. We whispered things we'd never said aloud before, dreams for the future, fears we'd buried deep. "I keep thinking about all the times I could have figured this out," Ethan said as we rested by a crystal-clear stream, dipping our feet in the cool water. "All the signs I missed." "Like what?" "Like how I always wanted you around more than anyone else. How I measured every girlfriend against you, and they all fell short. How jealous I got when you went on that date with Tyler last summer. I remembered that date, the one and only time I'd tried seriously dating Summy and Eels, hoping to move on from my unrequited crush. You were jealous? Insanely. I convinced myself it was just protective best friend stuff, but..." He shook his head. Splash. "Else, hoping to move on from my unrequited crush. You were jealous? Insanely. I convinced myself it was just protective best friend stuff, but..." He shook his head, splashing water with his toes. "I was an idiot. You weren't ready. That's different from being an idiot. I wasted so much time. We're here now. That's what matters." He kissed me then deep and thorough, until we were both breathless, the sound of the stream fading into the background. "I really like kissing you. Really like kissing you too. Is it always like this? This ... consuming? When it's right? Yeah. Then with everyone I dated before. I'm not sure I ever actually kissed them properly, because this is completely different. It feels like coming home, I thought, but didn't say aloud. Instead, I pulled him in for another kiss, letting actions speak. We reached the parking lot by late afternoon. Ethan's Jeep sat waiting, dusty from the drive-up, and reality began to creep back in. In a few hours, we'd be back in San Francisco. Back to our regular lives, or shared apartment in the Mission District, our startup Lumina tech humming with activity. Back to a world where Ethan wasn't out yet, where we had to hide what we'd found. The drive home was quieter than the drive up had been, the winding roads through the Sierra Nevada giving way to highways. Ethan drove with one hand on the wheel, his other clasped with mine on the center console. Neither of us wanted to let go, our thumbs tracing circles on each other's skin. "I need to tell you something," Ethan said, as we merged onto I-80, the sun dipping low. "And I need you to understand it's not about you." My heart clenched. "Okay. At work, I need to keep things professional. Not because I'm ashamed I'm not, but because I need time to come out on my own terms, to my family, my friends, the team. And I need to do it right, I get it. Do you? Because I don't want you to feel like I'm hiding you or our relationship. This is just ... It's a lot, and I need to process it before I deal with everyone else's reactions. Ethan, I've been out for years. I remember what it's like, that liminal space between knowing yourself and being ready to tell the world. Take all the time you need." He lifted my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "What did I do to deserve you? You were yourself. That's all I ever needed." The next few weeks were some of the hardest and most wonderful of my life. At work, Ethan and I maintained our professional facade. Best friends and business partners. Nothing more. We'd brainstorm app features in the office, our startup sleek space in Soma, buzzing with coders and designers.
Right.
But we'd avoid lingering touches or meaningful looks. In the evenings, though, back in our apartment, we were together, really together, learning each other in this new context. We'd cook dinner side by side, hips brushing, and end up abandoning the meal for heated kisses against the counter. Nights were spent exploring further, bodies becoming familiar maps, each discovery deepening our bond. Ethan approached his sexuality the way he approached everything, with thorough research and careful consideration. He devoured books on queer history, binged documentaries, listened to podcasts during his runs. and joined anonymous online forums for people questioning their identities. He was methodical, journaling his thoughts late into the night. "I think I might be bisexual," he told me one night. Curled up on the couch with a blanket draped over us, a half-eaten pizza forgotten on the coffee table, or maybe pansexual. Or maybe I'm gay and just didn't recognize it. I'm not sure yet. Is that okay? It's more than okay. Labels are tools to help us understand ourselves, not boxes we have to fit into perfectly. Use whatever feels right and change it if it stops fitting. How are you so wise? I had years to figure this out. You're on the fast track. He laughed, pulling me closer. Fast track, huh? Feels like I'm sprinting through a marathon. He started coming out slowly, deliberately testing the waters. First to his brother, who punched his arm playfully and said, "About time. Bro, I always knew you had a thing for Jordan." Then to a few close friends from college, who responded with hugs and offers of support. Each conversation made him more confident, more comfortable in his own skin, shedding layers of doubt like old clothes. "I'm ready to tell my parents," he said, for weeks after the camping trip, as we sat on our balcony watching the city lights. "Will you come with me?" "Are you sure?" "I'm sure about you." That makes everything else easier. The conversation with Ethan's parents was emotional, but ultimately positive. We drove to their house in the suburbs, my hand on his knee the whole way. His mother cried, but she insisted they were tears of joy, pulling us both into a fierce hug. "We've suspected for a while," she said, wiping her eyes. "We just want you happy." His father was quieter, processing in his thoughtful way, but he clapped Ethan on the back and said, "Son, love is love. Be who you are." "I am," Ethan replied, looking at me with a smile that lit up the room. "Happier than I've ever been." The hardest conversation was with our team at Lumina Tech. We called a meeting on a Friday afternoon, the office humming with end of week energy. Both of us were nervous, my palms sweaty as we stood at the front of the conference room. "We have some personal news we wanted to share," Ethan started, his hand finding mine under the table for a quick squeeze. "Jordan and I are together like dating, and we want to be open about it." There was a beat of silence, the team exchanging glances. Then Sarah from engineering burst out laughing. "Finally. We've been betting on this for months." "You what?" I asked, incredulous. "Oh, come on," Mike from product said, grinning. "The way you two look at each other. It's been obvious. We're thrilled for you." The relief was overwhelming, washing over us like a wave. Our team was supportive, happy for us, completely unfazed. They even toasted us with office coffee. "One rule," Ethan said, squeezing my hand openly now. "No relationship drama in the office. We keep work professional and personal separate. Deal." Everyone agreed, and just like that, it was done. That night, we celebrated at our favorite spot in the Castro, surrounded by rainbow flags fluttering in the breeze and the vibrant energy of the neighborhood. Ethan reached across the table and took my hand openly, proudly, his thumb stroking my skin. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out his phone with a nervous smile. He showed me a screenshot from a real estate app. "I found this place in Noah Valley. 3 bedrooms, a home office, backyard, walking distance to the office." I thought maybe, he trailed off, looking anxious. "It's too soon, isn't it?" I stared at the listing, my heart racing. "Are you asking me to move in with you? Only if you want to." "I know it's fast, but I've wasted so much time already. I don't want to waste any more." "Yes," I said, tears welling in my eyes. "Yes, I want to move in with you." His smile could have powered the entire city grid. I'm writing this from our sunny backyard in Noah Valley, watching the fog roll in over the hills as the sun sets in a blaze of crimson and gold. Ethan is inside, on a Zoom call with venture capitalists. We just secured our Series A funding, and Lumina Tech is poised to launch in 5 new markets. It's been 18 months since that camping trip changed everything. 18 months of growth, challenges, joy, and discovery. Ethan has fully embraced his identity as a bisexual man, even volunteering at a local LGBTQ+ center, sharing his story with young people navigating their own journeys. He's become an advocate, using his growing influence in the tech world to champion diversity and inclusion. Our relationship has deepened in ways I never imagined possible. We've had our challenges balancing the demands of a startup with our romance, dealing with the occasional investor who raises an eyebrow at our partnership, navigating family holidays where not everyone is as accepting, but we faced it all together, emerging stronger, more united. The camping gear sits in our garage, ready for our next adventure. We return to Yosemite every few months, hiking those same trails, pitching our tent in that fateful spot. Last time, we brought a deluxe model spacious, waterproof, with room for two, and then some. "Hey!" Ethan calls from inside. "Come look at this." I head in to find him beaming at his laptop. "What?" "The VCS want to feature us in a Wired article about building a company as partners in business and in life. They say it's inspiring, and you want to do it?" "I do. Our story could help people. Show them it's never too late to embrace who you are, that love can hit you like a storm when you least expect it." He stands and wraps his arms around me, his chin resting on my shoulder. "What do you think?" I lean into his embrace, still marveling at how effortless this feels now. "I think you're incredible and courageous, and I think we should tell our story." "Our story," he echoes, kissing my temple. I love the sound of that. We stand there as the evening light fades, holding each other. And I think about that awkward teen I was in high school, hiding in the shadows, terrified of being seen. I think about the young professional who fell hopelessly in love with his straight best friend and resigned himself to a life of quiet longing. I think about all the moments of heartache and patience that led to this end. It was worth it. Every sleepless night, every suppressed emotion, every second of uncertainty, it was all worth it for this. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asks softly, his breath warm against my ear. "Just how far we've come? How much has changed? Any regrets?" "Not a single one." He pulls back to look at me, those blue eyes that first ensnared me, now brimming with a love I once thought impossible. "I love you, Jordan Lee. In case I haven't said it enough today, you've said it exactly 4 times. I'm keeping count." He chuckles, the sound vibrating through me. "Okay, make it 5. I love you. I love you too." He kisses me then, slow and sweet, full of promise and history. When we break apart, he rests his forehead against mine. "You know what we should do?" "What?" "Plan another camping trip. Maybe invite some friends this time. Make new memories." I like that idea. "Though the first trip will always be special." The night, everything changed. The night I realized I wasn't as straight as I thought, he agrees, grinning. "Best storm I've ever weathered. Even though your tent collapsed. Especially because it collapsed. Otherwise, I might have spent another year being a clueless fool." I laugh and pull him close. "You were never a fool. You were just on your own path. We all are." Wise words from a wise man. I learned from the best. We stand there as twilight deepens into night, the city lights of San Francisco sparkling below like a sea of stars. Somewhere in Yosemite, that campsite waits, silent under the pines, ready for the next wanderers to find refuge, waiting for the next tale to begin. But our story, mine and Ethan's, is unfolding beautifully, and it's richer than anything I could have dreamed during those 4 years of silent yearning. Because true love, the kind that reshapes you, tests you, and empowers you to live authentically, that love is worth the wait, worth the struggle, worth the faith, even when it feels out of reach. Ethan takes my hand, and we step back inside our home, the life we've crafted together. Step by step, decision by decision, embrace by embrace. He was straight until that night in the tent, and I was adrift. Until I discovered that some loves demand for years of endurance, some storms wreak havoc, others bring revelation. Ours did both, shattering our former selves to forge something profoundly better. This is our story, and it's merely the prologue.